What does it mean to be a hero? Is it about trophies? Is it about glory? Or is it about standing tall when everyone else has fallen? For over a decade, one man was the answer to that question for the biggest club in the world. This is the story of the quiet guardian, David De Gea, and it will change how you see the lonely burden of greatness. To follow more incredible stories like this one, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Every great story needs a hero, and sometimes that hero stands utterly alone, a solitary, defiant figure against an oncoming storm. For much of a long, difficult decade for the world's biggest football club, that hero was David De Gea Quintana. This is not just a story about a goalkeeper. It's a story about staggering resilience, about defying expectations at every turn, and about the silent, heavy weight of greatness. And our story begins not on the hallowed, rain-soaked turf of Old Trafford, but on the dusty, unforgiving futsal courts of provincial Spain. David De Gea was born in Madrid in November 1990, but his soul was forged in the small town of Illescas, down in the province of Toledo. He was a quiet, unassuming boy, tall and so noticeably skinny for his age that you'd worry a strong gust of wind might carry him away. But in his blood, there was a legacy waiting to be unlocked. His father, José De Gea, had been a professional goalkeeper for Getafe. So from the moment David could walk a football, was his constant companion. José was so much more than a father. He was a mentor, a personal coach, his son's biggest, most passionate believer. He saw the spark in David, that same innate, almost mystical instinct that he himself had possessed between the posts. But unlike almost every other aspiring footballer in Spain, David's first true love wasn't the sprawling green of a full-size pitch. It was the hard, relentless, lightning-fast surface of a futsal court. And this, perhaps more than anything else, was the secret ingredient in the making of a modern legend. Futsal is a brutal, beautiful game of pure lightning-fast reactions. It's a game of close-quarters combat where a goalkeeper has to rely on instinct and explosive agility above all else. It demands that you save the ball not just with your hands, but with your feet, your legs, your chest. Your entire body becomes a shield. It was right here in these frantic, breathless, small-sided games that De Gea forged the unorthodox, miraculous reflexes that would one day leave the entire footballing world speechless. That trademark ability to make stunning, impossible saves. With his feet, a move that became his signature was born on these courts. By the time he was 13, his talent was a beacon, shining too brightly to be ignored. Atletico Madrid, one of Spain's true giants, came calling. It was a dream come true. But it was also a lie. To make sure the deal went through, to give them the push they needed, his youth coach Juan Luis Martin told the club a little white lie. He claimed that their city rivals, Rayo Vallecano, were on the verge of signing David. It worked like a charm. Atletico moved swiftly and secured their future star. And just like that, David began the long, arduous character-building journey through the Cantera, the club's famed and demanding youth academy. Even there, surrounded by the best young talent in Spain, he stood out. His coaches were at first deeply concerned by his slender frame. They put him on a strict diet, a specialized gym program designed to bulk him up, but his physique remained stubbornly slight. Yet on the pitch, he was an absolute giant. His lanky, seemingly endless arms and legs made the goal look smaller. His teammates, in total awe of his talent and his uncanny resemblance to the great Dutch keeper Edwin van der Sar, gave him a nickname, Van der Gea. The prophecy of that nickname would become a reality far sooner than anyone could have possibly expected. In the autumn of 2009, a full-blown crisis struck Atletico. Their new star, signing the goalkeeper, Sergio Asenjo, was away on international duty with Spain, and then disaster, the backup Roberto suffered a serious injury. Suddenly, the first team was without a single fit goalkeeper. The frantic call went down to the B team. The call went to the quiet 18-year-old kid, David De Gea. His debut was a true baptism of fire, a Champions League group stage match away from home against a powerful Porto side. He was a boy thrust into a world of men. Atletico lost the match 2-0, but in the fire De Gea had shown glimpses of an unnerving composure. Just 3 days later, he made his La Liga debut, this time at home, against Real Zaragoza. And the moment that defined his arrival, that announced him to Spain, came early in the game. Atletico conceded a penalty. The vast, passionate Vicente Calderón Stadium held its collective breath. A seasoned striker, Marco Babic, stepped up to the spot. The 18-year-old De Gea, on his home debut, faced him down. He guessed the right way, launched himself, and pushed the ball to safety. The stadium didn't just cheer, it erupted. A star had been born. From that single moment on, he never looked back. He completely displaced the more experienced Asenjo to become Atletico's undisputed number 1. And in that one incredible whirlwind debut season, the boy from Illescas led his boyhood club to glory. He was immense, a colossus in goal as Atletico marched all the way to the UEFA Europa League final, where they defeated English side Fulham. A few months later, they stood toe-to-toe with the Champions League winners, the mighty Inter Milan, in the UEFA Super Cup. And once again, De Gea was the hero, saving a late crucial penalty from the legendary striker Diego Milito to secure a famous 2-0 victory. At just 19 years old, David De Gea was already a double European champion. The world had taken notice, and one man in particular was watching very, very closely. In Manchester, a dynasty was nearing its end. The great Sir Alex Ferguson, the most successful manager in the history of British football, was preparing for his final act. His legendary goalkeeper, Edwin van der Sar, the very man De Gea was so often compared to, was about to retire. Finding his replacement was Ferguson's final, most critical mission. He needed someone with immense talent, of course, but more than that, he needed someone with the unique mental fortitude, the steel to survive in the relentless, suffocating pressure cooker of Manchester United. Ferguson's search led him directly to the young prodigy at Atletico. In a move that demonstrated his absolute unshakable conviction, Ferguson did something almost unheard of. He missed a Manchester United match, only the second time he'd done so in his entire 25-year reign, just to personally fly to Spain and watch De Gea play with his own 2 eyes. What he saw that day cemented his decision. This was his man. In the summer of 2011, a 20-year-old David De Gea, who barely spoke a single word of English, arrived in Manchester for a then British record fee for a goalkeeper of £18.9 million. He was immediately handed the iconic number 1 shirt, a shirt heavy with history. The pressure was simply immense. He wasn't just replacing a legend. He was stepping into a new country, a new language, a new culture, and a league famous for its brutal, unforgiving physicality. The English press and pundits were deeply skeptical. They looked at his wiry, almost fragile frame, and they licked their lips. The Premier League, they sneered, would chew him up and spit him out. And for a time it looked like they were right. His start was nothing short of a nightmare. His official debut, the Community Shield against bitter rivals Manchester City, saw him caught out by a long-range speculative shot from Edin Dzeko. In his first ever Premier League game against West Bromwich Albion, he fumbled a simple routine shot from Shane Long into the back of his own net. He was targeted at every single corner kick, bullied and battered by hulking center-backs, and lambasted by critics for his reluctance to command his penalty area. The media narrative was set in stone. He was a flop. A timid, costly mistake. Inside the club, however, the belief never ever wavered. Ferguson was fiercely, almost paternally protective of his young charge. He shielded him from the ravenous press and constantly assured him of his place. The coaching staff, led by the brilliant Eric Steele, devised a meticulous plan. They completely overhauled his lifestyle. He was put on a punishing gym regime, forced to drink protein shakes he absolutely hated, and made to eat more, sleep more. He slowly gained muscle. But the most important transformation was happening where no one could see it in his mind. Steel also forced him to learn English, refusing to speak to him in Spanish, so that he could communicate with and command his defense. Slowly, painstakingly, De Gea began to adapt. He learned to punch when he couldn't catch, to anticipate the physical onslaught, to become more aggressive, more assertive. The turning point, the moment the entire world saw the true genius that Ferguson had bet the house on, came in February 2012 away at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. United were trailing 3-2, when in the dying, desperate seconds of the match, Juan Mata, his future teammate and friend, curled a spectacular free kick towards the absolute top corner. It looked unstoppable. A certain goal. Time itself seemed to slow down. De Gea, moving with an almost supernatural grace, launched himself across his goal, stretching every single sinew of his 6'4" frame. With the very tips of his fingers at full impossible stretch, he somehow clawed the ball away from the corner and over the bar. It was a save that defied physics, that defied logic. It was the save that announced his true arrival in English football. The following season, 2012-13, De Gea was magnificent. He had transformed from a perceived liability into an undeniable pillar of strength. He was now a commanding presence in his box, and his shot-stopping was reaching otherworldly levels. He was instrumental, absolutely fundamental, as Manchester United stormed to the Premier League title, a fitting, perfect farewell gift for Sir Alex Ferguson. As the legendary manager waved goodbye to Old Trafford for the very last time, he could rest easy knowing that his final great gamble had paid off spectacularly. The skinny kid from Spain was now the undisputed king of the Stretford end. He'd faced down the critics, the physical challenges, and the immense weight of expectation to triumph. But I have to ask you this, what do you think is harder for a young player, dealing with the external pressure from the media, or the internal pressure of living up to a legendary figure like Sir Alex Ferguson's belief in you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Ferguson's retirement plunged Manchester United into a decade of turmoil and confusion. The fortress he had so carefully built crumbled, and the club entered a desolate wilderness. It is still to this day trying to escape. Managers came and went, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, each one failing to restore the glory days. The team was inconsistent, often fragile, and a pale shadow of its former self. And in this era of relentless chaos, one man stood as a constant. One man became the club's savior, its guardian, its lone sentinel, against a rising tide of mediocrity. David De Gea did not just become a great goalkeeper during these lean years. He became, without a shadow of a doubt, the most important player at Manchester United. While the outfield players in front of him struggled, De Gea elevated his game to a new plane of existence. He produced saves that were not just brilliant, but saves that single-handedly won points, won games, and kept the entire club afloat. He won the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award, an honor voted for by the fans, for 3 consecutive seasons, 2014, 2015, and 2016. He was the first player in the club's entire storied history to achieve that feat. It was a testament to his singular, overwhelming importance. In a team of struggling superstars, the goalkeeper was the undisputed king. His highlight reel from this period is a catalogue of the impossible. The breathtaking double save against Everton in 2014. The point-blank instinctual stop from Brian Oviedo that defied belief. The sprawling starfish-like saves with his feet that became his global signature, a precious gift from his futsal past. He was a one-man defense, a player whose individual brilliance so often masked the team's deep collective failings. If you love stories of individual brilliance and high-stakes drama like this, then you are in the right place. We explore the legends, the controversies, and the moments that define the beautiful game every week here at Legends of Football League, so make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another story. But his journey was not without its own incredible drama. In the summer of 2015, a move back to his hometown seemed not just possible but inevitable. Real Madrid, the club of his city, wanted him. A deal was agreed, and De Gea was all set to become the heir to the legendary Iker Casillas. He waited in Madrid on transfer deadline day, his bags packed, ready for the move to be finalized. But in one of the most infamous, bizarre moments in modern transfer history, the deal collapsed at the very final minute due to a delay in the paperwork. The legend of the faulty fax machine was born. He was left in a state of absolute limbo. A player who had expected to leave, who had said his goodbyes, was now stuck at a club he was mentally ready to part with. Lesser men, lesser characters would have crumbled. Their form would have fallen off a cliff. De Gea, however, showed the quiet, immense strength that came to define him. He returned to Manchester, signed a new contract, and proceeded to have arguably his best ever season for the club. The fans, who could have so easily turned on him, embraced him even more tightly. He had become their prodigal son, and his loyalty, forged in the strange fire of that bizarre, administrative failure, was now unbreakable. He continued to win trophies, an FA Cup under Van Gaal, a League Cup, and a second Europa League under Mourinho. But these felt like small islands of success in a vast sea of disappointment. The ultimate prize, the Premier League, remained frustratingly elusive. Yet through it all, De Gea's personal standards never ever dropped. He reached his absolute zenith, his personal Everest, in a game against Arsenal in December 2017. United won the match 3-1, but that scoreline tells you none of the real story. Arsenal had 33 shots on goal. De Gea made 14 saves, a joint Premier League record that still stands today. He was a wall, a force of nature. He produced a performance of such sustained, unbelievable brilliance that it is still spoken of in hushed, reverent tones. On that day at the Emirates, he wasn't just the best goalkeeper in the league. He was, without any question, the best goalkeeper in the world. The great paradox of David De Gea's career is that right at the peak of his powers for his club, he endured his lowest, most painful moment with his country. The 2018 World Cup in Russia was supposed to be his tournament, his coronation on the global stage. Instead, it became a personal horror show. A high-profile, shocking error against Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal in the opening game was followed by a timid, uncertain performance in a penalty shootout defeat to the hosts, Russia. The man who was a god in Manchester became a scapegoat in Spain. This period marked a subtle but profound shift. The game of football itself was evolving around him. A new philosophy, championed by visionary managers like Pep Guardiola, demanded that goalkeepers be more than just shot stoppers. They now needed to be the first attacker, supremely comfortable with the ball at their feet, able to build play from the back with crisp, accurate, press-resistant passing. And this was the one area of De Gea's game that had always been a relative weakness. His genius lay in the primal, reactive art of keeping the ball out of the net, not in the composed, proactive art of starting attacks. As Manchester United tried to modernize their style under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and then Erik ten Hag, De Gea's more traditional approach began to look anachronistic. The criticism grew louder. While he would still produce moments of breathtaking, match-winning brilliance, they were now punctuated more frequently by errors in distribution or a fatal hesitation that would put his entire team under pressure. The debate raged among fans and pundits. Was his elite, world-class shot stopping enough to compensate for his limitations on the ball in the modern game? In his final season, 2022-23, he seemed to answer his critics in the most emphatic way he knew how. He kept 17 clean sheets, winning the Premier League's Golden Glove Award for the second time in his career. He was still an undisputed master of his original craft. And yet the doubts in the manager's mind remained. The season ended with a painful FA Cup final defeat to their treble-winning rivals, Manchester City. One of the goals, a bouncing speculative shot from İlkay Gündoğan, squeezed past him. The critics pounced again. It felt like a symbolic, painful end. His contract was up. The negotiations had been protracted, public, and confusing. In the end, after 545 appearances, a club record for a goalkeeper, the end came, not with a grand farewell at a packed, adoring Old Trafford, but with a quiet, dignified statement on social media. After 12 long years, the quiet guardian was leaving. There was no testimonial match, no final tearful wave to the crowd that had sung his name for a decade. It was an understated, almost melancholic end to one of the greatest and most significant careers in the club's modern history. He left as a true legend, the very last remaining link to the Sir Alex Ferguson era, a player who had so often carried the weight of the club on his shoulders through its darkest, most turbulent days. His story is a powerful reminder that legacies are complex. David De Gea was not a perfect goalkeeper, but for a long, crucial time, he was the perfect goalkeeper for Manchester United. He was the hero they desperately needed, a spectacle of defiance against overwhelming odds. He was the boy who was born to fly, who weathered the fiercest of storms, and who for 12 unforgettable years stood alone as the quiet guardian of the theater of dreams. His next chapter is yet to be written, but the legend he wrote in Manchester is eternal. And that is where this incredible story comes to a close for now. What a journey, right? I am so eager to hear all of your thoughts. What was the one moment in De Gea's career that stands out the most to you? Was it that save against Mata or the 14 saves against Arsenal? Please share all your opinions, your favorite moments, and any questions you might have down in the comments below. I truly love reading every single one and building this amazing football community together with all of you.